The Gospel according to Mark. The Holy Bible, easy to read version. Chapter 12. Jesus used stories to teach the people. He said, "A man planted a vineyard. He put a wall around the field and dug a hole for a winepress. Then he built a tower. He leased the land to some farmers and left for a trip. Later, it was time for the grapes to be picked, so the man sent a servant to the farmers to get his share of the grapes. But the farmers grabbed the servant and beat him. They sent him away with nothing. Then the man sent another servant to the farmers. They hit his servant on the head, showing no respect for him. So the man sent another servant. The farmers killed this servant. The man sent many other servants to the farmers. The farmers beat some of them and killed the others. The man had only one person left to send to the farmers. It was his son. He loved his son, but he decided to send him. He said, "The farmers will respect my son." But the farmers said to each other, "This is the owner's son, and this vineyard will be his. If we kill him, it will be ours." So they took the son, threw him out of the vineyard, and killed him. So what will the man who owns the vineyard do? He will go and kill those farmers. Then he will lease the land to others. Surely you have read this in the scriptures. The stone that the builders refused to accept became the cornerstone. The Lord did this, and it is wonderful to us. When these Jewish leaders heard this story, they knew it was about them. They wanted to find a way to arrest Jesus, but they were afraid of what the crowd would do, so they left him and went away. Later, the Jewish leaders sent some Pharisees and some men from the group called Herodians to Jesus. They wanted to catch him saying something wrong. They went to Jesus and said, "Teacher, we know that you are an honest man. You are not afraid of what others think about you. All people are the same to you, and you teach the truth about God's way. Tell us, is it right to pay taxes to Caesar? Should we pay them or not?" But Jesus knew that these men were really trying to trick him. He said, "Why are you trying to catch me saying something wrong? Bring me a silver coin. Let me see it." They gave Jesus a coin, and he asked, "Whose picture is on the coin? And whose name is written on it?" They answered, "It is Caesar's picture and Caesar's name." Then Jesus said to them, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God." The men were amazed at what Jesus said. Then some Sadducees came to Jesus. Sadducees believed that no one will arise from death. They asked him a question. "Teacher, Moses wrote that if a married man dies and has no children, his brother must marry the woman. Then they will have children for the dead brother. There were 7 brothers. The first brother married, but died. He had no children. So the second brother married, the woman. But he also died and had no children. The same thing happened with the third brother. All 7 brothers married the woman and died. None of the brothers had any children with her, and she was the last to die. But all 7 brothers had married her. So at the time when people rise from death, whose wife shall she be? Jesus answered, "How could you be so wrong? It's because you don't know what the scriptures say, and you don't know anything about God's power. When people rise from death, there will be no marriage. People will not be married to each other. All people will be like angels in heaven." Surely you've read what God said about people rising from death in the book where Moses wrote about the burning bush. It says that God told Moses this: "I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." So they were not still dead, because he is the God only of living people. You Sadducees are so wrong. One of the teachers of the law came to Jesus. He heard Jesus arguing with the Sadducees and the Pharisees. He saw that Jesus gave good answers to their questions. So he asked him, "Which of the commandments is the most important?" Jesus answered, "The most important command is this: People of Israel, listen. The Lord our God is the only Lord. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second most important command is this: love your neighbor the same as you love yourself. These 2 commands are the most important." The man answered, "That was a good answer, teacher. You were right in saying that God is the only Lord and that there is no other God. And you must love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength. And you must love others the same as you love yourself. These commands are the most important, more important than all the animal sacrifices we offer to God." Jesus saw that the man answered him wisely. So he said to him, "You are close to God's kingdom." And after that time, no one was brave enough to ask Jesus any more questions. Jesus was teaching in the temple area. He asked, "Why do the teachers of the law say that the Messiah is the son of David?" With the help of the Holy Spirit, David himself says, "The Lord God said to my Lord, 'Sit by me at my right side, and I will put your enemies under your control.'" David himself calls the Messiah Lord. So how can the Messiah be David's son? Many people listened to Jesus and were very pleased. Jesus continued teaching. He said, "Be careful of the teachers of the law. They like to walk around wearing clothes that look important, and they love for people to show respect to them in the marketplaces. They love to have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. But they cheat widows and take their homes. Then they try to make themselves look good by saying very long prayers. God will punish them very much. Jesus sat near the temple collection box and watched as people put money into it. Many rich people put in a lot of money. Then a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth less than a penny. Jesus called his followers to him and said, "This poor widow put in only 2 small coins, but the truth is, she gave more than all of those rich people. They have plenty, and they gave only what they did not need. This woman is very poor, but she gave all that she had. It was money she needed to live on." Jesus was leaving the temple area. One of his followers said to him, "Teacher, look how big those stones are. What a beautiful building." Jesus said, "Do you see those great buildings? They will all be destroyed. Every stone will be thrown down to the ground. Not one stone will be left on another." Later, Jesus was sitting at a place on the Mount of Olives. He was alone with Peter, James, John, and Andrew. They could all see the temple, and they said to Jesus, "Tell us when these things will happen, and what will show us it is time for them to happen." Jesus said to them, "Be careful. Don't let anyone fool you. Many people will come and use my name. They will say, 'I am the Messiah,' and they will fool many people. You will hear about wars that are being fought, and you will hear stories about other wars beginning. But don't be afraid. These things must happen before the end comes. Nations will fight against other nations. Kingdoms will fight against other kingdoms. There will be times when there is no food for people to eat, and there will be earthquakes in different places. These things are only the beginning of troubles, like the first pains of a woman giving birth. You must be careful. There are people who will arrest you and take you to be judged for being my followers. They will beat you in their synagogues. They will be forced to stand before kings and governors. You will tell them about me. Before the end comes, the good news must be told to all nations. Even when you are arrested and put on trial, don't worry about what you will say. Say whatever God tells you at the time. It will not really be you speaking. It will be the Holy Spirit. Brothers will turn against their own brothers and hand them over to be killed. Fathers will hand over their own children to be killed. Children will fight against their own parents and have them killed. All people will hate you because you follow me. But those who remain faithful to the end will be saved. You will see the terrible thing that causes destruction. You will see this thing standing in the place where it should not be. Reader, I trust you understand what this means. Everyone in Judea at that time should run away into the mountains. They should run away without wasting time to stop for anything. If someone is on the roof of the house, they must not go down to take things out of the house. If someone is in the field, they must not go back to get a coat. During that time, it will be hard for women who are pregnant or have small babies. Pray that these things will not happen in winter, because those days will be full of trouble. There will be more trouble than has ever happened since the beginning of the world. And nothing that bad will ever happen again. But the Lord has decided to make that terrible time short. If it were not made short, no one could survive. But the Lord will make that time short to help the special people He has chosen. Someone might say to you at that time, "Look, there is the Messiah." Or another person might say, "There He is." But don't believe them. False messiahs and false prophets will come and do miracles and wonders, trying to fool the people God has chosen. So be careful. Now I have warned you about all of this before it happens. During the days following that time of trouble, the sun will be dark, and the moon will not give light. The stars will fall from the sky, and everything in the sky will be changed. Then people will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. He will send His angels all around the earth. They will gather His chosen people from every part of the earth. The fig tree branches teach us a lesson. When its branches become green and soft and new leaves begin to grow, then you know that summer is very near. In the same way, when you see all these things happening, you will know that the time is very near, already present. I assure you that all these things will happen while some of the people of this time are still living. The whole world, earth and sky, will be destroyed, but my words will last forever. No one knows when that day or time will be. The Son and the angels in heaven don't know when that day or time will be. Only the Father knows. Be careful. Always be ready. You don't know when that time will be. It's like a man who goes on a trip and leaves his house in the care of his servants. He gives each one a special job to do. He tells the servant guarding the door to always be ready. And this is what I am telling you now. You must always be ready. You don't know when the owner of the house will come back. He might come in the afternoon, or at midnight, or in the early morning, or when the sun rises. If you are always ready, He will not find you sleeping, even if He comes back earlier than expected. I tell you this, and I say it to everyone: be ready. It was now only 2 days before the Passover and the festival of the unleavened bread. The leading priests and teachers of the law were trying to find a way to arrest Jesus without the people seeing it. Then they could kill Him. They said, "But we cannot arrest Jesus during the festival. We do not want the people to be angry and cause a riot." Jesus was in Bethany at the house of Simon the leper. While He was eating there, a woman came to Him. She had an alabaster jar filled with expensive perfume made of pure nard. She opened the jar and poured the perfume on Jesus' head. Some of the followers there saw this. They were upset and complained to each other. They said, "Why waste that perfume? It was worth a full year's pay. It could have been sold and the money given to those who are poor." And they told the woman what a bad thing she had done. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. Why are you giving her such trouble? She did a very good thing for me. You will always have the poor with you, and you can help them any time you want, but you will not always have me. This woman did the only thing she could do for me. She poured perfume on my body before I die to prepare it for burial." The good news will be told to people all over the world, and I can assure you that everywhere the good news is told, the story of what this woman did will also be told, and the people will remember her. Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 apostles, went to talk to the leading priests about handing Jesus over to them. They were very happy about this, and they promised to pay him. So they waited for the best time to hand Jesus over to them. It was now the first day of the festival of the unleavened bread, the day the lambs were killed for the Passover. Jesus' followers came to him and said, "We will go and prepare everything for you to eat, the Passover meal. Where do you want to have the meal?" Jesus sent 2 of his followers into the city. He said to them, "Go into the city. You will see a man carrying a jar of water. He will come to you. Follow him. He will go into a house. Tell the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks that you show us the room where he and his followers can eat the Passover meal.' The owner will show you a large room upstairs that is ready for us. Prepare the meal for us there." So the followers left and went into the city. Everything happened the way Jesus said. So the followers prepared the Passover meal. In the evening, Jesus went to that house with the 12 apostles. While they were all at the table eating, he said, "Believe me when I say that one of you will hand me over to my enemies. One of you eating with me now." The followers were very sad to hear this. Each one said to Jesus, "Surely I am not the one." Jesus answered, "It is one of you 12, the one who is dipping his bread in the same bowl with me. The Son of Man will suffer what the scriptures say will happen to him, but it will be very bad for the one who hands over the Son of Man to be killed. It would be better for him if he had never been born." While they were eating, Jesus took some bread and thanked God for it. He broke off some pieces and gave them to his followers and said, "Take and eat this bread. It is my body." Then he took a cup of wine, thanked God for it, and gave it to them, and they all drank from the cup. Then he said, "This wine is my blood which will be poured out for many to begin the new agreement from God to his people. I want you to know I will not drink this wine again until that day when I drink it in God's kingdom, and the wine is new." Then all sang a song, and then went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus told the followers, "You will all lose your faith. The scriptures say, 'I will kill the shepherd, and the sheep will run away.' But after I am killed, I will rise from death. Then I will go to Galilee. I will be there before you come." Peter said, "All the other followers may lose their faith, but my faith will never be shaken." Jesus answered, "The truth is, tonight you will say you don't know me. You will say it 3 times before the rooster crows twice." But Peter strongly protested, "I will never say I don't know you. I will even die with you." And all the other followers said the same thing. Jesus and his followers went to a place named Gethsemane. He said to them, "Sit here while I pray." But he told Peter, James, and John to come with him. He began to be very distressed and troubled, and he said to them, "My heart is so heavy with grief. I feel as if I am dying. Wait here and stay awake." Jesus went on a little farther away from them and fell to the ground and prayed. He asked that, if possible, he would not have this time of suffering. He said, "Abba, Father, you can do all things. Don't make me drink this cup. But do what you want, not what I want." Then he went back to his followers, and he found them sleeping. He said to Peter, "Simon, why are you sleeping? Could you not stay awake with me for 1 hour? Stay awake and pray for strength against temptation. Your spirit wants to do what is right, but your body is weak." And again, Jesus went away and prayed the same thing. Then he went back to the followers again and found them sleeping. They could not stay awake. They did not know what they should say to him. After Jesus prayed a 3rd time, he went back to his followers. He said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? That's enough. The time has come for the Son of Man to be handed over to the control of sinful men. Stand up. We must go. Here comes the man who is handing me over to them." And while Jesus was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12 apostles, came there. He had a big crowd of people with him, all carrying swords and clubs. They had been sent from the leading priests, the teachers of the law, and the older Jewish leaders. Judas planned to do something to show them which one was Jesus. He said, "The one I kiss will be Jesus. Arrest him and guard him while you lead him away." So Judas went over to Jesus and said, "Teacher." Then he kissed him. The men grabbed Jesus and arrested him. One of the followers standing near Jesus grabbed his sword and pulled it out. He swung it at the servant of the high priest and cut off his ear. Then Jesus said, "Why do you come to get me with swords and clubs, as if I were a criminal? Every day I was with you teaching in the temple area. You did not arrest me there. But all these things have happened to show the full meaning of what the scriptures said." Then all of Jesus' followers left him and ran away. One of those following Jesus was a young man wearing only a linen cloth. When the people tried to grab him, he left the cloth in their hands and ran away naked. Those who arrested Jesus led him to the house of the high priest. All the leading priests, the older Jewish leaders, and the teachers of the law were gathered there. Peter followed Jesus, but stayed back at a distance. He followed him to the yard of the high priest's house. He went into the yard and sat there with the guards, warming himself by the fire. The leading priests and the whole high council tried to find something that Jesus had done wrong so that they could kill him. But the council could find no proof that would allow them to kill Jesus. Many people came and told lies against Jesus, but they all said different things. None of them agreed. Then some others stood up and told more lies against Jesus. They said, "We heard this man say, 'I will destroy this temple built by human hands. And 3 days later I will build another temple not made by human hands.'" But also what these people said did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before everyone and said to Jesus, "These people said things against you. Do you have something to say about their charges? Are they telling the truth?" But Jesus said nothing to answer him. The high priest asked Jesus another question. "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the blessed God?" Jesus answered, "Yes, I am the Son of God. And in the future you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right side of God, all-powerful. And you will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven." When the high priest heard this, he tore his clothes in anger. He said, "We don't need any more witnesses. You all heard these insults to God. What do you think?" Everyone agreed that Jesus was guilty and must be killed. Some of the people were there to spit on him. They covered his eyes and hit him with their fists. They said, "Be a prophet and tell us who hit you." Then the guards led Jesus away and beat him. While Peter was still in the yard, a servant girl of the high priest came there. She saw him warming himself by the fire. She looked closely at him and said, "You are with Jesus, that man from Nazareth." But Peter said this was not true. "That makes no sense," he said. "I don't know what you're talking about." Then he left and went to the entrance of the yard, and a rooster crowed. When the servant girl saw him there, she began saying again to the people standing around, "This man is one of them." Again, Peter said it was not true. A short time later, the people standing there said, "We know you are one of them, because you are from Galilee." Then Peter began to curse. He said, "I swear to God, I don't know this man you are talking about." As soon as Peter said this, the rooster crowed a second time. Then he remembered what Jesus had told him. "Before the rooster crows twice, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Then Peter began to cry. Very early in the morning, the leading priests, the older Jewish leaders, the teachers of the law, and the whole high council decided what to do with Jesus. They tied him, led him away, and handed him over to the governor, Pilate. Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Yes, that is right." The leading priests accused Jesus of many things, so Pilate asked Jesus another question. He said, "You can see that these people are accusing you of many things. Why don't you answer?" But Jesus still did not answer, and this really surprised Pilate. Every year, at the Passover time, the governor would free one prisoner, whichever one the people wanted. There was a man in prison at that time named Barabbas. He and the rebels with him had been put in prison for committing murder during a riot. The people came to Pilate and asked him to free a prisoner, as they always did. Pilate asked them, "Do you want me to free the king of the Jews?" Pilate knew that the leading priests had handed Jesus over to him because they were jealous of him. But the leading priests persuaded the people to ask Pilate to free Barabbas, not Jesus. Pilate asked the people again, "So what should I do with this man you call the King of the Jews?" The people shouted, "Kill him on a cross." Pilate asked, "Why? What wrong has he done?" But the people shouted louder and louder, "Kill him on a cross." Pilate wanted to please the people, so he set Barabbas free for them, and he told the soldiers to beat Jesus with whips. Then he handed him over to the soldiers to be killed on a cross. Pilate's soldiers took Jesus to the governor's palace, called the Praetorium. They called all the other soldiers together. They put a purple robe on Jesus, made a crown from thorny branches, and put it on his head. Then they began shouting, "Welcome, King of the Jews." They kept beating on his head with a stick and spitting on him. Then they bowed down on their knees and pretended to honor him as a king. After they finished making fun of him, they took off his purple robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they held him out of the palace to be killed on a cross. There was a man from Cyrene named Simon walking into the city from the fields. He was the father of Alexander and Rufus. The soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross. They led Jesus to the place called Golgotha. Golgotha means the place of the skull. There they gave him some mixed wine with myrrh, but he refused to drink it. The soldiers nailed Jesus to the cross. Then they divided his clothes amongst themselves, throwing dice to see who would get what. It was 9 o'clock in the morning when they nailed Jesus to the cross. There was a sign with the charge against him written on it. It said, "The King of the Jews." They also nailed 2 criminals to crosses besides Jesus, one on the right and one on the left. People walked by and said bad things to Jesus. They shook their heads and said, "You said you could destroy the temple and build it again in 3 days. So save yourself. Come down from the cross." The leading priests and teachers of the law were also there. They made fun of Jesus, the same as the other people did. They said to each other, "He saved others, but he can't save himself. If he's really the Messiah, the King of Israel, he should come down from the cross now. When we see this, then we will believe in him." The criminals on the crosses besides Jesus also said bad things to him. At noon, the whole country became dark. This darkness continued until 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, Jesus cried out loudly, "Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani." This means, my God, why have you left me alone?" Some of the people standing there heard this. They said, "Listen, he's calling Elijah." One man there ran and got a sponge. He filled the sponge with sour wine and tied it to a stick. Then he used the stick to give the sponge to Jesus to get a drink. The man said, "We should wait now and see if Elijah will come and take him down from the cross." Then Jesus cried out loudly and died. When Jesus died, the curtain in the temple was torn into 2 pieces. The tear started at the top and tore all the way to the bottom. The army officer who was standing there in front of the cross saw what happened when Jesus died. The officer said, "This man really was the Son of God." Some women were standing away from the cross, watching. Among these women were Mary Magdalene, Salome, and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph. James was her youngest son. These were the women who had followed Jesus in Galilee and cared for him. Many other women who had come with Jesus to Jerusalem were also there. This day was called Preparation Day. That means the day before the Sabbath day. It was becoming dark. A man named Joseph from Arimathea was brave enough to go to Pilate and ask for Jesus' body. Joseph was an important member of the High Council. He was one of the people who wanted God's kingdom to come. Pilate was surprised to hear that Jesus was already dead, so he called for the army officer in charge and asked him if Jesus was already dead. When Pilate heard it from the officer, he told Joseph he could have the body. Joseph bought some linen cloth. He took the body from the cross, wrapped it in the linen, and put the body in a tomb that was dug in a wall of rock. Then he closed the tomb by rolling a large stone to cover the entrance. Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, saw the place where Jesus was put. The next day, after the Sabbath day, Mary Magdalene, Salome, and Mary, the mother of James, bought some sweet-smelling spices to put on Jesus' body. Very early on that day, the first day of the week, the women were going to the tomb. It was very early after sunrise. The women said to each other, "There is a large stone covering the entrance of the tomb. Who will move this stone for us?" Then the woman looked and saw that the stone was moved. The stone was very large, but it was moved away from the entrance. The women walked into the tomb and saw a young man wearing a white robe. He was sitting on the right side of the tomb. The women were afraid, but the man said, "Don't be afraid. You are looking for Jesus from Nazareth, the one who was killed on a cross. He has risen from death. He is not here. Look, here is the place they put him when he was dead. Now go and tell his followers, and be sure to tell Peter. Tell them Jesus is going into Galilee and will be there before you come. You will see him there, as he told you before." The women were very afraid and confused. They left the tomb and ran away. They did not tell about what happened because they were afraid. Jesus rose from death early on the first day of the week. He appeared first to Mary Magdalene. One time in the past, Jesus had forced 7 demons out of Mary. After Mary saw Jesus, she went and told his followers. They were very sad and were crying, but Mary told them that Jesus was alive. She said that she had seen Jesus, but they did not believe her. Later, Jesus appeared to 2 followers while they were walking in the country, but Jesus did not look the same as before. He was killed. These followers went back to the other followers and told them what had happened. Again, the followers did not believe them. Later, Jesus appeared to the 11 followers while they were eating. He criticized them because they had so little faith. They were stubborn and refused to believe the people who said that Jesus had risen from death. He said to them, "Go everywhere in the world, tell the good news to everyone. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but those who do not believe will be judged guilty. And the people who believe will be able to do these things as proof. They will use my name to force demons out of people. They will speak in languages they never learned. If they pick up snakes or drink any poison, they will not be hurt. They will lay their hands on sick people, and the sick will get well." After the Lord Jesus said these things to his followers, he was carried up into heaven. There Jesus sat on the right side of God. The followers went everywhere in the world, telling people the good news, and the Lord helped them by giving them power to do miracles, the Lord proved that their message was true.